Hey Jackie, Auntie, Jackie, you ready? When the clouds roll.
Inflammation, both in the body and in life, it's like a reminder that something needs attention. Now, whether it's burnout, stagnation, or unresolved inner conflict, living bold, fulfilled, and free, it requires us to address these areas head on. And we begin to commit to the healing and taking care of ourselves physically, emotionally, and even mentally. We begin to unlock the energy, the clarity, and the strength that we need to live our lives to the full. Now, living boldly isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Fulfillment, it comes from taking courageous steps to break free from the things that has been holding us back. And freedom is living without fear of those things returning. Now, whether it's chronic inflammation in your body or the cycle of stress in your life, but remember, healing, it's possible for you. And living a bold, fulfilled, and free life, it is within reach. So today, let's talk about inflammation, both in the body and in life. I have been reading this book. It's called My Body's on Fire: Inflammation, the Silent Killer. And it's amazing. I purchased it probably mid-July or whatever. And then around mid-August, I was dealing with a condition where, and some of you are familiar with gout, and you already know that it comes from having a high increase of uric acid in your body. And the interesting thing about it is that it comes on suddenly. You go through your day, you go to bed at night, you sleeping fine, and then you wake up in the morning only to find that for me, it was in my big toe. I tried to put my feet on the floor. Oh my world. The pain is just unimaginable. It's not something you can even imagine. The pain is so severe and very, very painful. But as I went through this, I went through about 4 episodes from July until about kind of coming out of one right now, to be honest. But as I was dealing with it, I just began to be quiet and begin to reflect on things, and it caused me to think about life. And when it talks about inflammation in the body, inflammation is something that we have in our bodies. It's a good thing. It's just that when it gets a little bit over out of hand and gets to be a lot, it begins to affect various parts in our body, can affect our health. And in my researching and things that I have been doing, I learned that inflammation is like the root cause of many, many diseases. You'd be amazed at how many diseases that we deal with, and that the root of it is inflammation. So it's so ironic that I happened to purchase this book. So you might be saying, well, Jackie, why are you sharing all this? And the reason why I'm sharing this, again, because it made me think about life. How many times there's areas in our life where there's things going and brewing underneath that we're not paying any attention to. We're kind of just moving about. Like I said, with gout, you're doing fine during the day. It doesn't really manifest itself until the night when you go to bed and you go to sleep. And I can just think of areas in our lives that sometimes we're asleep. We're not paying attention to it. We may not be paying attention to how we manage our relationships. We may not be paying attention to how we handle our finances. We're not paying attention to how we're growing and developing. We're not paying attention to our spiritual development, where we are spiritually and how we're interacting and developing our relationship with our Heavenly Father. So I just begin to compare that with the gout situation that I have been dealing with, and how so often, sometimes we don't even realize some of these things are going on till something is triggered or till something happens. And then we say, I'm not doing as well in that situation as I thought I was. Hmm, I'm not really managing those relationships as well as I thought I was. Hmm, how's things really going when it comes to my relationship with my Heavenly Father? Hmm, how am I really doing when it comes to my finances? I mean, there's just so many areas in our lives. Even when we're on our jobs, there are things that are brewing and going under current and we don't really recognize that's going on. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And then we begin to see this really isn't the way I really thought it was, or I'm not able to respond in the manner that I really thought I would be able to respond. So I just wanted to share with you some lessons that I learned in dealing with this situation. One of the lessons that I learned is that at first I had to make a decision to choose and make a necessity and changing the things in my life that needed to be changed. I had to learn that I had to make a decision to choose and make the necessary changes as needed. And with gout, I had to change my diet. I had to change the various foods that I ate. And that was like a roller coaster ride. You Google, I don't know if that's a good thing to do all the time, but you Google and some things say, oh, you can have this, and this. I'm eating this and I'm still having flare ups. And I go to the doctor, oh, no, you shouldn't be eating that. And the other interesting thing was that there are things that are really healthy for you that I'm not able to eat. Spinach is one. You think of Popeye, that's what he ate. He gave him strong muscles, right? Well, I'm not able to eat spinach. And the reason why is because I'm not able to eat foods that are high in purine. So there's some things that creep up in our lives that may seem like it's good for us, but really it's not good for us. Really things that we don't necessarily want to add to our life. There's some things that we might want to take away. Another lesson that I learned is that I had to be honest about my limits. And so when I first had this, I had a flare up like 2 years ago and again in mid-August. So when this happened this time, I said, okay, all the foods and the drinks that I knew I shouldn't have, I had to get rid of them immediately. I had to remove it all from my home because I know me. If I dab a little bit, then it's going to take, I'm doing a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Next thing you know, I'm all in. So again, when it comes to our lives, some things we can't play with. Some things that we know that, we can't dab around with it. If you do this little thing or if you stay in this thought process too long or if you engage in this thing or, you know, participate in this activity or even be around some people, if you do these things too long, you know that it's not going to give you the outcome that you desire. So that's why I had to learn to be honest when it came to my limits. The other thing that I learned is that it takes time, and I had to give myself grace. I had to give myself grace that, the days when I was struggling. I love fries. One of my favorite drinks is green tea, Gold Peak, and I'd be riding about and I have those cravings and desires. And I'm like, should I pick up some fries or should I get some of that green tea? I'm so grateful that so far that I've been good. And so far I haven't done that. But again, in case I did, I had to give myself some grace. There are things in life as we're changing, as we're developing, as we're growing. Sometimes we don't always get right all the time. Sometimes we miss the mark sometimes. And we want to be able to give ourselves grace. The key is to know that tomorrow is a brand new day, and each day is an opportunity for a new beginning. So just remember, wherever you are, whatever you're feeling like you want to change and grow and develop, this is a new month, August. We have a new opportunity to begin to make the necessary adjustments that we feel that are needed within our lives. And there were some benefits that came along with me changing my diet and doing these things. Some of the benefits were that um, I was able to have less fogginess. Sometimes, my brain would get a little bit foggy. I remember going to church the particular Sunday, maybe a couple of weeks after I changed the diet, and I felt like my spirit was so open. I was getting emotional and just crying about everything. I'm crying through worship and just listen to the word and different stories as people, they always have an altar call for people to accept Christ. And I was just so emotional. It's like You could feel different things around you that you may have normally not paid any attention to. So I was like, oh my world. I mean, and I noticed since then I have had a greater sensitivity to spiritual things. So for me, I saw that as a plus. So I want you to begin to think about as you're changing, as you're navigating, as you're, making these adjustments, as you're growing and developing. Think about some of those benefits that are happening in your life. You might want to write them down so you can remember. The other benefit that I had was I began to have more energy. I felt like I wasn't as tired throughout the day. I felt like I had more energy to just, do the things that I was desiring to do. So when it comes to making changes and adjustments in our lives, it has so many more benefits. My mood was happier. I felt like I was not, sometimes I made my moods might fluctuate, but I felt like it was, pretty steady. Things that may in the past that would upset me, they really weren't doing that. I felt like I was able to process things a lot better, think about things a lot better, think about things in a way that will be beneficial to for me and even the situation involved. I've always kind of been sensitive to other people's needs and, kind of wanting to make sure that, I'm pleasing them. That could be a problem sometimes, right? That kind of leans into that people pleasing thing. But I always wanted to, make sure that I was, doing the right thing and, responding to things in the right way. And now I just even have a greater sensitivity to know that I want, and more so to know that I'm really in the will of my Heavenly Father. That's what's most important to me, knowing that I'm moving and doing and saying how He wants me to operate. So, whatever that looks like for you, just begin to think about what are some of those benefits? What are some of those amazing things that is now taking place in your life as you begin to make the necessary adjustments to kind of live the life that you want to live? And often hear me talk about being your BFF, living bold, fulfilled, and free. And believe it or not, our health is an important component to that because if we're not healthy and if we're sick, it can be a little bit challenging to um, be bold and feeling fulfilled when you can't hardly walk or you can't really get out of bed and you're not really thinking well and you don't have the energy to do the things that you desire to do. So in order for us to live that bold, fulfilled, and free life, being healthy is really, really important. And one of the components to help us is what we eat, what we put in our bodies. So that goes in life. What are we feeding ourselves? How are we feeding our mind? How are we feeding our emotions? How are we feeding ourselves spiritually? How are we feeding ourselves physically? How are we feeding ourselves financially? So I hope you're able to see the connection between it all. As the book said, my body's on fire, and I don't want some of these things to be a silent killer in my life. And I don't want them to be a silent killer in your life because I believe that Christ came that we have life and that we have it more abundantly, that we live it to the full. He desires us to be his hands and his feet here on the earth. There are men and women who are waiting for the amazing things that are inside of you. But if we're suffering from various things in our bodies, then we can't show up as our healthy self. We can't show up and do the things that he's requiring us to do. So I hope that the things that I shared, and I've shared a lot of personal things about me, hoping that you can see the correlation in your life and it causes you to begin to reflect. What's inflamed in me? What kind of things in me that I need to make some adjustments to? Where do I need to pivot? Where do I need to turn? Where do I need to, do things differently than the way I've done before? And I don't mean this in a way to beat anybody down or have you walk away feeling bad, because I also want you to celebrate. I want you to celebrate where you are, all the amazing things that you've already done, all the amazing healing and things that have taken place in your life. But what I talk about, he said inflammation is the root cause. What I really, really want us to do is begin to get to the root of these things. So we don't have to worry about repeating cycles and having it happen over and over and over again. So, what area in your life, what is it that's going on in your life that is important that we get to the root, that we can cut that thing off. So it no longer has any power in our lives so that we can truly, truly, truly live the life that we deserve and that we desire. So I want you to continue to live your best life. If you look behind me, I want you to continue to believe. I want you to continue to create. I want you to continue to climb that mountain because if you don't climb the mountain, you won't be able to see the view. I want you to continue to be able to live bold, fulfilled, and free. So until next time, take care.